So JD Vance, simply put, cannot stop shoving his foot in his mouth. Let me tell you something. The Trump team did not do their research before they picked JD Vance. As I told you, it was reportedly Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, who basically twisted their dad's arm and said, you're going to pick this guy. And I think he has some degree of respect, not necessarily for his sons, but for Tucker and Elon. And so he's like, sure, what could go wrong? But as I said, they didn't do their research because this guy has a gold mine of quotes from just the past few years that are like tailor-made to piss off giant swaths of the electorate that he needs. By the way, one of the things they should have been considering is, hey, who can we pick that could shore up some of our weak points? That's a way to consider picking a VP. It's like if Trump is viewed as too extreme, if Trump is viewed as maybe the 2020 election thing, denying that and saying he's going to deny this election, if that's viewed as too out there, if abortion is a big issue, which it is, why not get somebody who's sort of moderate on those issues to sort of quell fears? You know, they probably will struggle with suburban women, so why not pick a woman, right? Initially, the reports were he was going to pick a woman. We thought Kristi Noem, but then she ended up killing a dog, and so she was out. But then Elise Stefanik was available, didn't pick her. So he just went with this doughy frat prick boy, and he crashed and burned as a result of it. So here's some new video. He cannot stop shitting on childless people. He can't do it. He can't do it. He has some sort of visceral hatred of people who've decided not to have kids or who can have kids or whatever. All right, so here we go. This is from 2021.
The best way to invest in it is to ensure the next generation actually exists. So I think sending those signals via policy, but the cultural messaging and politicians is important. I also think, just to be a little stark about this, I think we have to go to war against the anti-child ideology.
We have to go to war against the anti-child ideology. Hey, JD, that's made up. That's not a thing. People who don't have kids, you know what they think about other people having kids? They go, all right, God bless. like nobody's like, you had kids? I'm disgusted at the fact that you had kids. I'm against that. Nobody does that. Like, this is just made up. By the way, you're going to see a trend here. This guy is way too online. He has terminal brain worms from being online. And he makes that very clear. Here we go.
A few weeks ago, no, Twitter is not real life, but I forget even what caused it, but there was this ridiculous effort by millennial feminist writers to talk about why having kids was not a good thing, why they were glad they didn't have kids, and even encouraging people who had children to talk about why they regretted having children, which of course is like
Mother's Day
on Mother's Day, which is like psychologically deranged to ask mothers on Mother's Day to talk about why they regretted having children.
Yeah, so those feminist millennial writers and their 7 fans that now represents the left, represents all people without children. Like, what are you babbling about? You are way too online in these weird right-wing bubbles, you freak.
And what it made me realize is that so much of what drives elite culture is mediocre millennial journalists who haven't gotten out of their career what they thought they would, right? And the thing is, everybody can be an exceptional mother and father. Not everybody can be an exceptional journalist at the New York Times. And not enough people have accepted that if they put their entire life's meaning into their credential, into where they went to school, into what kind of job they have, if you put all of your life's meaning into that, you're going to be the sort of person who asks women to talk about how they regret having children.
Plenty of people derive their happiness and their worth from their profession. And you're lucky, by the way, if you're in that group, right? There's also plenty of people that derive happiness and joy and satisfaction from some hobby or some community group that they're in, or some sport that they play, right? I never see any judgment from people who don't have kids towards those with kids. Never. I've never seen it in my life, ever. He acts like that's everybody on the left or everybody without kids. That's just made up. It's just totally not true. But I see plenty of judgment from weirdos like this, social conservatives like this, where they castigate and berate and scold people who don't have kids for whatever reason. God, it's so... What a weirdo.
Pathetic person. And you're going to know it internally.
You already
project
said?
it onto people. You're going to be the sort of person who asks women to talk about how they regret having children. You're going to be a sad, lonely, pathetic person, and you're going to know it internally, so you're going to project
sad, lonely, and pathetic
onto people who have actually built something more meaningful with their lives. I think we have to go to war against that ideology and the people behind it, because we need to say to the people in my hometown, I've seen this with, just to be honest, with my sister. I love my sister is just the best person. I love her to death. And sometimes, she'll say things to me like, maybe I should have delayed having kids. Maybe I should have went to school. Maybe I should have did this or that. It's like, Lindsay, you've been a great mom. Your children are happy. They're healthy. You've taken good care of them. You've shown me, she was my older sister. She took care of me a lot in a very chaotic home. People like my sister should not feel like the cultural messaging is your life is inadequate. The people who are sending that message should feel that their life is inadequate. And of course they do. They're just too ashamed about it to talk about it.
How about none of their lives are inadequate? How about that? That's like the Occam's razor obvious point to make. Sorry that the camera is shaking. I have a dog who's demanding pets over here. The stinky one is here. None of their lives are inadequate. And the idea that this is sort of like they're driving this ideology that you're supposed to mock and make fun of the people who have kids. I've never seen that in my life. Like I said, he's way too online. He found some weird fringe feminist writer with 7 fans, and he angrily reads it and acts like, well, this is what the left wants, and this is what childless people want. They want nobody to have any kids. That's what they want. This is all so shamelessly made up. Shamelessly made up. So now you might see this go, wow, here's another comment, just like his other childless cat lady comment, which is him shoving his foot in his mouth. I'm sure he hasn't been repeating this talking point for like at least 3 years. Look at this, guys. Things JD Vance has said about people without kids. He's called them childless cat ladies, childless sociopaths, less mentally stable, most deranged, most psychotic, radical childless leaders, more sociopathic, driftless, childless Democrats, and they, quote, must be stopped. And of course, as you heard, he also wanted to declare war on that, quote, ideology, the ideology of people without kids, prodding people to not have kids, which again is completely and utterly made up. Okay, the funniest one to me here is they're less mentally stable. Oh, really? You're sort of single-handedly proving that wrong. There are plenty of people who have kids who are not very mentally stable, and there are plenty of people without kids who are mentally stable. And also vice versa is true. There's no correlation whatsoever between having kids or not having kids and mental health. Again, the position of the left, broadly speaking, is live and let live. You do what you want on these things, and it's totally fine. It's your life. It's your decisions. God bless either way. That's the general left-wing perspective on this. The right-wing perspective is shut the fuck up and have kids, right? It's this very like, you need to create a baby-making factory where you pop out kids every couple of, where, it's like, this is your job as a mom. Get your ass in the kitchen, pop out some more kids, raise them, nurture them. And that's what he views the role of a woman in society as, which is why he gets so angry at people who break that mold, right? It's a very 1950s style thing. Well, here's the problem. Trump was already struggling with suburban women. Shit like this is only going to piss off suburban women more. And I'm even talking about suburban women with kids. Because this sort of unnecessarily harsh criticism of just like slightly different life choices. If I meet somebody with kids or I meet somebody without kids, in my mind, they're just people. I'm not harshly judging one or the other. He is. He is doing that. So it's sort of like a uniquely horrible VP pick, because with the particular groups that he's struggling with that Trump is struggling with, JD Vance makes it worse. In one fell swoop, he's pissing off millions and millions of people. He has disdain not only for single people, men and women, but also for like stepmoms and stepdads. Because he said, Kamala Harris somehow, for some reason, doesn't count because she's a stepmom. Look, I can tell you as a stepdad, that shit counts. I still have to do all the classic dad shit, right? And so the idea that you could just discount that, it's just... He's also thinking about... It's just a weird thing to dwell on, and a weird thing to think about, and a weird thing to judge people for. It's the social conservatives are very demented, because the other thing they do is they will also scream and whine and piss themselves and shit and moan about identity politics, as they are the ones who are constantly yelping and yapping about identity politics. We saw this all the time. How many right-wing extremists are trans people, trans, and they're like, why won't the left stop talking about trans people? It's like, you guys are doing this. And this is just yet another example here. So literally could not have made a worse pick. And this guy is tanking the Trump ticket even further. He was soaring high there for a minute when he thought, I'm definitely up against Biden. But then they did the old switcheroo, and it's going to be Kamala, and made this horrible VP pick. And look, I have no doubt, regardless of what Trump says publicly, he's definitely thinking about maybe replacing JD Vance. Because on top of all these horrible things that are coming out, he has the charisma of a moldy piece of bread, right? Like, and Trump does not respect that in any way, shape, or form. You at least need to come with a good line of bullshit if you said crazy things. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.